I want to just take a second to talk about what this event is in terms of a kickoff. The villages of San Mateo County went through a strategic refresh, strategic planning process last year. And we surveyed our members, we brought our board and volunteers and, whole community together to really think about where are their needs and where do we want to grow. And we heard that with the average age of our members at 83 years old, almost 84, yeah. So, but we heard pretty loudly that folks really wanted more resource around thinking about navigating age transitions. That's whether you're 65 retired and coming in as a volunteer or, much older. So we are building our capacity to do a lot more in the age transition arena. One strand of that work is gatherings like this, focused on different age transition issues. But we're calling them conversations because it's one thing, for example, today to have Anne come in and talk about some of the decision-making points informationally. But these are deep considerations, and part of being the value of being a part of our village community is we're all going through these changes together. So we think as this evolves, but you'll tell us, that there's maybe as great a need just to have space to talk with other people about some of the challenges, your thoughts, that sort of thing. So today is the beginning of the first session around this issue, but we most definitely anticipate bringing in other resources, and we want to hear what those will be from you. So there's this kind of education conversation strand. The other thing that we're working on, and Joan Sears, I don't know where you are, she's somewhere in the audience in the way back. Joan has been working with me to begin to plan for setting up a care navigation team. So we know other villages do this, and so we've been talking with them about how they manage it. But the idea is that, as we age, there may be, points where we need more support, a fall, a surgery, the loss of a spouse. So these transitions. And so this care team, which will be village volunteers, will be there to reach out, to provide additional support, be sure that you're tapping all the resources that the village has to offer. And we will grow to have the capacity to make referrals to other community resources. So really excited about the care team. And the hope is, we've supported villagers sort of when they get to a point where there's almost a crisis. The desire now is just to be there and available through time. So we're really excited about lifting this off. As I mentioned, we want to hear from you at the end of the session. We'll have a survey. We want to hear from you about what other resources you'd like. So hope you will complete that survey. I want to first thank Joan Bell, who's been working with me to pull this together. Joan, raise your hand. Everybody knows you. Joan is a founder. She's been so active in many ways, including with our office team for years. But Joan, thanks. This came out of a conversation we had, and then she joined me and we pulled this together. Jackie Messina is back there. Jackie is our party giver extraordinaire. She's responsible for all this food, including, I hear, some fudge she made. And then Cindy Georgette and Kalmoudi on our staff have been a big part of making this this gathering happen. I want to introduce Anne Blickhammer. Anne is amazing. Anne's been a part of our village community for, I don't know, almost since our founding. She is a social worker with expertise in gerontology, and we call on her as a member support often. So we're really glad to have you here. Let me tell you a little bit about Anne's background. She's a licensed clinical social worker with over 35 years experience working with older adults and their families. She facilitates groups for caregivers with Parkinson's disease and helps families coping with the challenges of dementia. She enjoys community education, and she's currently working with the Ombudsman Services of San Mateo to develop workshops for caregivers. We are co-sponsors on many of those workshops, so you've been hopefully getting announcements for all of those great gatherings. Anne grew up in San Francisco, and she loves going to music and theater, which I can attest to because we saw you at a theater show recently. She's, I think, looking forward to this conversation. I'm going to pass the mic to her. Thank you so much, Anne. Yeah, I'll get rid of this. Got it?
All right. Can you hear me? Yeah, great. Well, it's lovely to be here, to see such a nice turnout and to see so many members from the village. I think you all, by virtue of being part of the village, are kind of ahead of the game because you're part of a wonderful organization, a nationwide organization to support older adults aging in place and enhancing their lives with a wonderful community. So you've started off on the right foot, I think. Our conversation today about navigating care transitions, I think for some of you will be a proactive conversation. You're thinking about the future. You're doing okay right now, but you'd like to know what's there. For some of you, this may be reminiscent of caregiving you have already provided, perhaps to your parents, perhaps right now to a spouse or to another family member. And for others, this may be more urgent because you may be in the midst of some change. So I have 3 goals for our conversation today. My first one is to help you think about what your needs are. The second is to learn about the options that exist in our community. We have a very rich, San Mateo County is very rich in resources, and we're very fortunate. And third, to help you think about how to make these choices. So 2 individuals may have the exact same situation. 2 individuals live in a house in San Carlos, similar structure. There's a couple stairs to get into the house. Perhaps there's a staircase from the first floor to the second. Laundry is in the garage, and sometimes it gets a little harder. And so I have a little scenario of 2 people, and they're both in a similar situation. They live on their own, they're independent, they have good cognition, so there's no concern about their judgment, but things are getting harder for them. They've had a fall, they're using a walker right now, and life is just getting hard, and they're trying to figure out, how do I improve life for myself? So we'll call them Jack and Jane. So Jack wants to stay in his house. It's a place where he brought up his family, his kids, he has good memories, and he's not going anywhere. He's willing to have help in the home. His house is not accessible, though. He has trouble getting up the stairs. He has trouble getting upstairs, and he doesn't want a bedroom downstairs. He can't get to the laundry with a big basket of clothes downstairs anymore. Using his walker, it's hard even to carry his cup of coffee from here to there or whatever he has cooked. So cooking has become more difficult. Cleaning has become more difficult. He's willing to have help at home and to make the needed changes to stay home. Now we have Jane, and Jane loves her home. It's where she brought up her family, and she has great memories there. She wants to independently get in and out of her house. She her community is important to her, but a lot of her friends have moved. And she would like to get back involved with the community, make new friends, or keep the old ones as well, hoping her friends will visit. She does not want the responsibility of her home anymore, dealing with the backyard, dealing with plumbing, dealing with all the issues that a home entails. Being active and being with friends is really her priority. She misses the movies and theater. She's willing to move to a senior living community where she can enjoy herself, she can continue lifelong learning and be involved. She hopes her friends will visit her. So here's two people who want to be independent, but independence means something very different to these two people. Jack and Jane on the surface look like they have the same needs, but there is no one cookie cutter answer for anyone. But as I said, we have a lot of resources in San Mateo County, and so that means there's a lot of options. So how do you start out? Someone like Jack who wants to stay at home, hopefully he's had a chance to talk to family, to talk to friends, to see what other people are doing, but he might start with a care manager, a social worker in the community who might help him look at what does he need and what are his priorities. We have a number of social service agencies and also linkages that provides care management. A home safety evaluation could be the first step for him, looking at, are there throw rugs that are fall hazards? Does he have lighting that is good enough for his needs? Does he have grab bars near the toilet and the shower? A lot of things that, you hope that he'd already have in there, but there's a lot that could improve his situation at home. He wants to be able to get upstairs and he wants to enter his house safely. So perhaps he works with one of our community agencies to install a ramp. He can also get, if his staircase accommodates it, a chairlift. You can even get them used because people use them for a short amount of time often. And we have a number of organizations that help with home modification. He can hire home care workers to help with cleaning and cooking, home delivered meals or order out, and hopefully talk with his family and see how they can assist him. Jane is ready to move to a new community, and she needs an assessment as well. Her assessment is going to be both about what does she need? Does she need help with anything? And what are her priorities in a new environment? So she may work with a care manager or a senior advisor who works to match people up with senior living, with assisted living. They know what's out there and they know they will work with you to find out what do you need and try to find a good fit for you. So looking at, do you want a small environment? Do you want something really large? Some people really don't like that much chaos going on around them. Do you want to continue swimming and you want a place with a pool? Do you want to stay here in San Carlos or your family's in Fremont? Do you want to move out to the East Bay? She doesn't want to deal with meals. She doesn't want to deal with shopping. She has the option to get 3 meals a day at a certain, at many places, or just 1 or 2. Does she have particular dietary needs? Maybe she's kosher or halal or gluten-free or low sodium. Can she get meals that are appropriate for her diet? Is additional care needed? What kind of spiritual care is there? Is there a faith house that she's particularly involved with? And does she want to live nearby so she can go to that same church? Or is she fine with having the spiritual needs met in her new environment? So these are all the things that someone would talk with her about. They would take her to the communities to look at them, to tour, as well as give her as much information as she needs. And, I would say, go there, have lunch, spend the day. Some communities will even allow you to stay overnight to really see what the environment is like. It's a big move. So, and also for someone like this, and if she owns her house, what is she going to do with her house? Is she going to rent it out? Is she going to sell it? Is her family going to help her with that? Does she need that money to pay for her new environment? Or can she move somewhere temporarily to see how it goes and then make a decision about her house. So there's a lot of things to consider. And how can her family support her in all of this, or her friends? So every situation is different, and that's really a good thing, because we're all different. We have different values, we have different culture, we have different priorities, and we have a lot of resources to try to help figure out what might be some good options for you. So let's see. We are now going to take some time to talk about what is important to you, because this conversation is about you. It's about what is important to you and what would you like to get out of this conversation today. As Sue said, we're hoping this is the first of many. So what I'd like to do is go around the room and ask you three things. If you can tell me your name, what is your main concern? And it could be, I want to stay home. I'm now, have this kind of a need. I found a place I like. I want to know what questions to ask. All those are good questions. Your main concern. And what do you hope to get out of this conversation today? And I think at the same time, we're going to give everybody a,
That would be at the end.
that'll be at the end. Okay. So what is your name? What is your main concern? And what do you hope to get out of this conversation today?
I'll take this around. Maybe we'll.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Teresa. My main concern is running out of money. And what I hope to get out of today are just some more ideas.
Thank you.
Hi.
There's a lot that you've all packed in here, and I think we're going to touch on a lot of the things that you've mentioned, and hopefully in future conversations, we can talk more in depth about some of the particular areas. One area we're not going to talk about today is transportation, and there are a number of transportation services, low-cost transportation, probably Tessie and Helen in the back even know about some, but I'm happy to give you those resources. But that we're not going to touch on that today, but that is a very important one, especially as we stop driving. So let's. I think I need some help. Oh, there we go. Okay. Where do I begin? What do I need? So when I was talking about Jack and Jane and their situation, I think like anybody, it's taking stock of what you need, what you have, what your priorities are. And it can be as simple as sitting down and talking with your family, your friends, your partner, and saying, hey, I'm having trouble with A, B, or C, or the stairs are hard for me, or whatever it is, and begin a discussion about what you want, what you need, and what you're comfortable with. A family meeting is a great way to do it. There are times where a family is in conflict, and then it's great to have a facilitated discussion. It doesn't have to be with a professional. It could be with a friend who everybody knows in the family, or just an impartial friend or person. But sometimes it's helpful to talk to someone ahead to talk about, well, what should we discuss? Kids may have feelings about selling the house. I mean, that could be very basic, and that may or may not come out. But a family meeting, or you can work with a professional. So we've got someone here who is a geriatric care manager, and this is what geriatric care managers do, and many will provide a consultation. And I just named a couple of places in the community, but we have a lot of, as I said, a lot of social service agencies where you could probably meet with a geriatric social worker and begin the needs assessment. So what would you look at? Some of the things you want to think about is, what are your medical needs? Is there a complex chronic condition that you're dealing with that you have a sense of what that trajectory is and what you might need in the future? What is your mobility status? Excuse me. Are you in good shape right now? And maybe right now, what's all you want is senior living, and you'll make a decision later on down the road. should you want to go somewhere else. But you're doing fine just now. Can you take care of yourself? Or a family member who you're working with or who you live with, are they having trouble feeding or toileting? Activities of daily living, do you need help with that? What are the dietary requirements that you need or that you like? Maybe it's not a gluten-free diet, or maybe it's not a low sodium diet or a diet for dialysis. I mean, there are so many different kinds of dietary needs, but maybe you prefer clean eating and a plant-based diet. It's good to look at what these are and have a meal wherever you're going to go, but that's something you're going to want to put in, make a note of. What is your emotional status? What is your mental health status? There's a lot of people here who are widowed recently, and is this a stressful time? This may not be the time for a move. And one of the things I always say is try not to make a big move in a crisis. Sometimes we have to. I'm glad to see a lot of people who are here trying to plan proactively. But how are you feeling? Are you an anxious person? Do you want to be in a large place, in a small place? Do you want to live on a busy street? Do you want to live in a particular area? What kind of amenities do you want in a place, or do you need? What makes you happy? For some people, it could be, I need a room with a lot of light. I need that for my mental health. I mean, I hear things like that. Then that's what you have to do. If you're going to assisted living and you would really like to have a roommate, or you would really not like to have a roommate, those are things to consider. What are your spiritual needs? Again, I think we mentioned that a little bit before. But is there a faith house nearby, or is your faith house nearby? And do you want to continue participating? Maybe it's nature. Maybe you like to go on a nature walk or be by the ocean. I mean, we all find our spiritual needs in different ways. Environmentally, what do you need? What kind of an environment makes you feel good? Are you looking for a new community? Or would you be very happy, or your family member be very happy in a small community of 6 people where they don't have to interact with a lot of people? Those are all things to think about. Your sense of community and what that means to you. In my example, Jane wanted to be part of a big community, and for her, meeting new people, she was open to that. It's harder to meet new people as we get older, and we have good friends, and many of us want to stay in the same community because of those ties. So it's something to think about. And what about if you have creative or vocational outlets that you want to continue? Do you draw? Do you paint? Are you someone who's working on a memoir? I mean, there's so many things that people are doing with their life and their time, and wanting to see, will I have the ability to continue to do that if I move somewhere else? So you want to stay in your own house. And someone was asking, I just need a little bit of help once in a while. And we have a lot of home care agencies in the community. It's even hard to choose one because there are so many, but it's good to talk to someone who refers out a lot to let them know what you need and to try to, find somebody to help you. Caregivers through home care are staff. They're employees of the home care agency. So if you work with a home care agency, you don't have to deal with taxes and all of that. It's non-medical care, and it's for things that you might need at home: shopping, cooking, cleaning. It might be turning your mattress, things that are really hard to do when you live alone. It may be taking you to some event that you need to go to. But home care is a trained staff, but not a medical staff. And you can hire someone typically 4 hours at a pop. There are some agencies there are a lot of agencies that are trying to meet the need for people who want fewer hours. Sometimes it means they charge you more, which is not a great a flip side of it. Sometimes they might span it over time. So it's important, and if that's something you need, then we look for something like that for you. But you can hire someone for 24/7 also if needed. If you need skilled care is something that has to be provided by a trained licensed professional. Home health care. So I think we put them both there so you can just see the difference. That always has a nurse or a licensed vocational nurse, typically a nurse, to provide care. In a home health care agency, you will probably have an occupational therapy and or physical therapy, speech, social work, and or a home health aide. So you may have used a home health care in the past if you maybe are recovering from a knee replacement or some kind of injury, and the physician does an examination and they order this, and then it's covered by Medicare typically. But let's say you have a lot of medications, and that's one thing, or your family member does. You can hire on your own a nurse to come into your house to, put the meds for a month in a Mediset. You cannot have a home care aide do your medications. You can do medications for your husband, your wife, your friend, but in an agency, they won't allow that. It has to be licensed. So that's one of those things people ask about a lot. A couple of you have said you have thought about home remodel or have done some home modifications. I just looked up a couple of different organizations that we have here in the San Mateo County area. Center for Independence of Individuals with Disabilities. They provide a lot more than home modification. They do a lot of education with disabled. I don't know if things have changed, but in the past, they have gotten money to provide a home modification for people who can't afford it. So someone who might need a ramp put in or something like that. And as I said, something like if you're looking for a chairlift or for the stairs, they also can tell you about that kind of thing, and they can be purchased used as well. I put in at the end Vista Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired because there are people who are dealing with loss of eyesight, and some home modification sometimes is helpful, and they'll come in and work with you so that you can work well within your own home. Adult Day Healthcare is another wonderful program for if you are taking care of somebody at home who has a lot of needs and you feel like you can stay home with them, but you need a break and they need stimulation. There's nothing better than Adult Day Health. So there are a couple different types of Adult Day programs. Adult Day Healthcare has social and recreation programming specifically for disabled and older adults. It is not a child's daycare. It's often in Adult Day Health, it's a protective setting. So this might be appropriate for someone who has cognitive impairment. Like I'm thinking of Rosner House. They have areas that you can walk around outside that are safe. For people with medical or cognitive needs, post-stroke, nursing, health services, chronic disease management, and they take blood pressure and they can do blood sugars, a lot of different things.
I see a lot of people writing. I wish we had made copies of this for you to have right here, but we will email out to all of you. Sorry about that. And if anybody doesn't email, let me know as well.
So that was Adult Day Healthcare. Adult Day services are more socially focused, where they have meals, they have basic assistance to older adults, there's companionship, and most of all, it's respite. So if you're taking care of someone all day at home and having someone come in to help is great, but it's also great to have the house to yourself for some time, or maybe it's just to work, maybe it's, to do something else, but that's another thing that Adult Day Health programs do. I ran an Adult Day Health program, and you see people blossom because they get the stimulation they can't get at home. And then other Adult Day programs that we have are Catholic Charities in San Carlos, Coastside, in Half Moon Bay, Peninsula Volunteers in Menlo Park, Peninsula Volunteers is Rosner House. And then I am not familiar with the Roberta Seri Teglia Center. That's in South San Francisco. Respite care is something that might be helpful for you if you are taking care of someone and you want to stay home alone you want to stay home with them, but they might need a little more care. And perhaps you're thinking of placing them in a facility. Sometimes a temporary placement is enough for you to have a break. Maybe there's a family wedding you want to go to, that would be helpful. It can also be a trial period in a new community. As I said, perhaps you want to move into senior living. This isn't respite care, but a trial period for someone who might be going into assisted living or another type of care to test it out. And it's also helpful for a caregiver need. So how do you find the right place? Some of you are thinking, I want to think ahead, and somebody just told me they had gone to 9 places. So everybody's got their own way. The best thing certainly is to talk to people. I put down a couple places I know about, a place for mom, Care Patrol. There's senior navigators. There are people who work for these facilities who come to your house, who talk with you, find out what you're looking for, how to make that fit. They talk with you about questions that you might want to ask. I mean, that's really important. What is important to you, and questions that you can ask of residents at a new facility, of administrators. Talk to your friends, look at online reviews, and definitely spend some time at a facility once you get there, talking to people who live there and find out what their issues might be. And then Ombudsman Services of San Mateo County is not a place to find out where to go, but let's say you have narrowed down your choice. It's a good place to call and say, hey, are there any complaints made against this licensed facility? And they'll let you know. So senior living, I think of independent living and assisted living as senior living. Both provide a sense of independence and privacy, housing, support services, different kinds of recreation, transportation to appointments, to the store, and they're licensed and they're regulated. Independent senior living that a lot of you have talked about. And I think it's important. A lot of people just don't want to deal with the daily upkeep of a house. And so you really have a reduction in your daily responsibilities to make your life a little more fun again. It's often standard amenities like an apartment. You don't need help with activities of daily living, so you're able to feed yourself, get dressed, toilet yourself. It doesn't mean that there aren't going to be meals there, but you can take care of you. Laundry, housekeeping, everything is available there, or it could be inside your apartment as well. There's usually common areas. Some are bigger facilities, some are large campus. They're really set up differently. There's no medical staff on site unless you are looking at a CCRC, and I'll go over that soon, where there is skilled nursing, memory care, assisted living, and senior living all on one campus. And you have that option as well. If needed, personal care or nursing staff can be privately paid for. So if you need it, you can get it at a price, but it's not something that goes with your normal price for senior living. And senior living can also be referred to as senior apartments or retirement communities or 55+ communities. So if you're exploring, those are other titles you should take a look at. Assisted living is more care than senior living, than independent living, excuse me. So when you're eligible or need assisted living, you are in need of some kind of assistance with your activities of daily living. And it might be because there are physical issues going on and that you need a lot of physical help. It could be cognitive. It could be that there is Alzheimer's or another type of dementia. And physically, you might be very intact, but you're not safe living independently. And these have 24-hour supervision. You need extra support. It could be a wide variety of things. There's personal care assistance to help with all the activities of daily living. There are call systems. Medication is provided there for you. I think family still has to pay for that and get it to you. There are different accommodations, but they can provide that to you. And then there are a lot of wellness and social enrichment activities, as well as a lot of classes and activities. So you've heard of assisted living, and I think years ago we talked a lot more about residential care facilities for the elderly and boarding care. And now we hear mostly assisted living. Residential care facilities for the elderly, or RCFE, is the same thing as board and care. And what that means is it's basically operates under the same regulations as assisted living, but it's small. So it's those small homes in the community that are licensed. They're typically under 6 beds, and they provide a warm, cozy, small environment for somebody who needs that. And there are people who do not, just it would be overwhelmed with a large assisted living. And so it's a small environment. There's a higher staff ratio because there's only 6 people. They have either independently private rooms or shared rooms, and they, provide medication distribution and personal care and all the same things that you might get, but on a smaller scale. So I think another big question that everybody asked about, and this probably would need to be a bigger conversation, but what do things cost? What are the financial considerations? So independent living, there's no medical service provided, and insurance doesn't cover it. So there's Medicare doesn't cover it, Medi-Cal doesn't, and long-term care insurance policies do not. Some people look at reverse annuity mortgages if they are interested in staying in their house or selling their house. So there's a lot of different ways to manage the financial piece, but to stay in their house, that is one way people are able to get more care. Going into independent living, there's often a decision as to whether to sell the house or to rent it out. And if there's family involved, then that's helpful as well. With assisted living and the provision of medical assistance, long-term care insurance policies may cover some of that. It's good to check your individual policy. And if you're a veteran, sometimes veteran benefits cover some of that as well. Memory care. So memory care is a supportive, protected environment which offers 24-hour supervision. The focus is on the cognitive needs of someone who has a dementia, has Alzheimer's disease, and the staff are trained to deal with the issues around dementia. How do you communicate well with somebody who isn't hearing, body language, how to deal with all the various things that occur when somebody is impaired. And so trying to keep appropriate stimulation available for an individual, but not overstimulating them, making sure that you want to make sure that they're looking at non-pharmacological approaches to behaviors as well, that giving more medication is not the answer to any kind of behavioral issue. But the staff are trained and they get ongoing training in dementia care. The activities tend to be specific to this population with music therapy, art therapy, a lot of ways to draw people out and communicate in different ways. It's safe and structured environment, and they tend to be more home-like. They do a lot of things that engage all the senses. So it might be aromatherapy or hand massage, different ways of trying to give people the stimulation they need without overwhelming them. And some memory care units are inside nursing care facilities. And those memory care units, then you have access, a quicker access to medical care. A skilled nursing facility, some people call them a SNF, is often where we go when we're recuperating. If it's not a rehab, it might be a skilled nursing facility. And that's for someone requiring the highest level of support of nursing care, of a doctor's care, of specialized physical therapy, things like that. For serious and chronic health conditions, wound care, stroke recovery, those are, the skilled nursing facility might be best. And we may transition from a lower level of care when a previous level is no longer enough. So someone in assisted level whose illness is progressing and they need skilled care they need skilled care may move to a higher level of care. So 24-hour supervision, staff, oh, sorry, went the wrong way. Skilled nursing. So a physician exam and prescription are required for admission to skilled nursing. I learned this through Marlene recently. After 20 days of coverage for Medicare, then you pay $204 a day or 206, I can't recall, till day 100. Long-term care insurance can usually cover part of the cost. Again, you have to check your specific policy. Medi-Cal covers part of the cost and the resident covers a portion of their income. So we do have older adults living long-term in skilled nursing facilities as well. I mentioned CCRC, which is a continuing care retirement community, and that's when everything is in one campus, one area. So independent living, assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing. Residents can move between different services as needed. So someone who is in independent living and breaks a leg, I mean, just it could be something as basic as that, may be able to go into another area to get the support they need while they heal. Entrance and monthly fees guarantee housing and medical care, but it looks like there's also different levels of contracts when you move in. I found this, and I don't know that this is going to make anyone happy because it's the median cost. I found this in Long-Term Care News, November 2024, and came up with these costs as the California median cost annual and monthly for day health, assisted living, home care. And this all depends on how much care you need for adult day health, or I guess the others are full-time or home health care.
That's helpful.
And, you know, we know that cost of care in California is a lot higher, but I just talked to someone and they were placing a family member in Minnesota, and they said the care was maybe $1,000 less a month. It wasn't drastically different. So to end, points to ponder is start early, be prepared, do your research. It sounds like many of you are doing that, and this is a great first step. Involve family and friends in discussion. And what I mean by make a change while you have a choice to make, when things are good, it doesn't mean you have to move at that time, but if you have your research and you know some home care agencies that you would utilize, or you know where you might like to move to, it's good to move there before someone has a fall or someone breaks a hip, somebody who is high risk right now, because then they may not be able to make a choice and they end up with what's available at that time. With cognitive changes, an earlier move allows time to adjust, do a trial run, and again, avoid making big changes at a time of crisis or a time of grief, if possible. So, thank you. Yeah, okay.
With so many of you here, we took quite a bit of time to hear about your concerns. So we won't be able to have questions from Anne, but I did want to invite Joan Bell up and then Sally Edwards. We just wanted you to get a very brief kind of window into the experience of members who have been through making decisions about care. Is it easier just to stand there, Joan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
sure.
Okay, it's sort of interesting that I'm asked to talk about this. A year ago today, I was in the midst of moving. We had movers show up at 8 o'clock, and we had, thanks to a lot of help from some of my village friends, we'd gotten a house at least a little bit cleared out. So it's an interesting thought. I made a decision. I probably did some of this wrong. I'm fiercely independent. Some people might say stubborn, like Diane. And I've been a member of the village for 10 years from the beginning of time. And the village has been a big help to me. And I came to the conclusion that it was time to make a change. I lived in my house for 60 years. I raised 2 kids and sort of raised 2 grandkids there. So the problem with my family was everyone thought that is home base. They moved around all over the country, but they always had Highland Avenue to come back to. So 2 grandchildren and my son supported me, and my daughter took it very hard that I was going to sell the family home. But in the long run, my main thing was steps. I had a very steep driveway. I had a 2nd floor, and my legs started giving me trouble. And truthfully, I couldn't get around my house anymore. And I tried some adjustments, and I just decided, because at the same time that my body was falling apart, my house was falling apart. As I said, I lived there 60 years. It was 4 years old when we moved in. And although we'd done a lot of remodeling in the times we lived there, I had just put on a new roof, but the foundation was slipping. The water pipes were needing to be replaced. The electricity was, and I thought, you know, I just am not up to doing a lot of remodeling, and truthfully, it would have cost a lot of money. But it was not so much the money. I could have raised that for the house, but it was just the day to day trying to get through life. So I decided it was time to move. And of course, when you do that, you'll hear it some of our future conversations. Do you want to stay in your own area? Do you want to move near your kids? And there are all sorts of pluses and minuses. I decided to stay in the area. Good reason being my village friends that I had. And I also worked at College of San Mateo for 26 years. So I had a lot of people from college that worked there at the same time. So my decision was to stay in this area. And I decided to go with independent living, because other than my legs, I'm pretty much pretty good at, doing things on my own. So I chose a place that had, I got a 2-bedroom apartment, which everyone teases me because I got my 2nd bedroom for my cat. But also it's handy when my kids come from out of town to stay there. But I am thrilled that I moved when I did, because I'm not sure I could, even today, I'm not sure I could do it. It was really hard to do it a year ago, but for me, it was the right decision. I'm not saying it's the right decision for everybody, but it was for me. I sold my house and I moved into, I moved into Sterling Court, which is on the edge of San Mateo. We now have, I think, Joan Sears is one of, we have 8 or 9 village members living there now. So we tease so we could have our own village meetings there. And it's, for me, it's been the right thing to do. I'm still pretty busy with the village. I keep trying to retire. And I also, have a lot of friends in the area. So I can come and go as I please. I'm fortunate that I still drive. And but they do have a drive there. Takes you places, and they have a bus that takes you to Safeway and stuff like that once a week. But for me, it was the right decision. I'm not saying it's right for everybody, but I can go in my apartment, work on whatever I want to work, but yet when I come out for dinner in the evening, I've made new friends, and it's nice to look forward and think, oh, you just walk out the door, go down the elevator, and you have the food there is delicious, by the way. So check the food out of any place you're thinking of moving. And so I just want to say that for me, it was a hard choice. People keep saying, well, don't you miss your home? And it's sort of interesting. I miss it, and I miss the times I had there. But there's no way I want to be back in my house and having, taking care of that. I don't, Sue wanted me to mention, I recently had a birthday, and I was given a party bike and had 10 new friends there. And my age, that's not easy to have 10 new friends. So anyway, I just think, depending on what you want, that might be a good thing to think about.
Thank you so much, Joe. We are passing out the surveys I mentioned just to get a feel for how you would like continued resource. So sorry for the hustle bustle, but
I
Yes.
wanted to add something.
Sure.
I wanted to add something that might be helpful for those who might be in the same situation. My husband had Parkinson's. And he was a veteran. And fortunately, he signed up for the benefits when they were available. But the veterans did amazing things, all the way to primary-based home care. And they provided wheelchairs, ramps, so many things. So if you have a relative who is a veteran, encourage them to participate because the benefits are out there. They might be a little bit difficult to get to now. I'm not sure about that. But I went through a full 8-year course with my husband with Parkinson's. And I took care of him for the most part. And they provided hospice and he passed away at home, which is what he wanted.
That's
So-
fabulous. And yeah, thank you for reminding us of that. Yeah, great. Okay, everybody hold your seat. We've got one more speaker, Sally Edwards, who's a longtime member of the Villages, is going to talk a little bit about in-home care and her experience.
Well, I'm really happy to be able to do this. I just want to tell you a little bit about my situation that may resonate with some of you. 5 years ago, my husband was diagnosed with dementia. And for the first year or so, we did pretty well. And then about 6 months after that, he started falling. And I'm a nurse. And I fell 4 months ago myself, walking him with his walker. He didn't get hurt, thank you, Lord. But I fractured my wrist and now I'm dealing with some little complications. But anyhow, that's a thing, think about as a caregiver in your home. And so after about 6 months of his falling and calling 911 and praying each time he would not get hurt, I realized I couldn't manage anymore. Now, I did have some caregivers at home, but selectively, not a lot. But I had a night caregiver and I had a day caregiver with minimal hours. So I went through the whole thing. I wanted so desperately to keep him at the house. And it was a very, very difficult decision to make to take him into a memory care facility. Fortunately, he had been going to daycare program, Rosner House, for the year after his diagnosis. So I knew about the Rosner Care support group, which I started joining at that time. And they were absolutely wonderful. Everybody in the group is dealing with some aspect of memory care, 2 wonderful coordinators. They were the best to help me through because half the time I cried through the meetings. I just couldn't let him go. I just couldn't. And finally I did. And before I did that, I went to see several care facilities, memory care facilities in Redwood City where I live. I wanted it to be close so I could see him every day. And fortunately, both of the 2 facilities that I saw were wonderful. And I wound up seeing them about 6 months before the 5th fall at home. And then I said, okay, that's it. So I went in on Friday. By Monday, we had him admitted. He's been there now almost 4 years, 3.5. It's closer to 3.5, actually. And I see him every day. And I struggle with watching his decline, but I am so grateful he is there. The stimulation that he gets there, he loves people, he loves to be out in the day room. If nobody's talking and nobody's doing much of anything, they have music, they have art, they have limited activities for people at severely advanced levels, really. There's only a few people that are at the facility. They're really pretty well with it, but it's perfect for him. And I'm so grateful. And for me, having to let go of, I can manage this, I can do it, I'm a nurse, I should be able to do it. was the biggest obstacle, really. I should have done it before I fell 5 times. And I just thank the Lord that he didn't get hurt physically, any of those. He's a big man. But caregiver support is so important. I mean, it just is. We have a life also, and we have to keep that in mind whenever we're taking care of our loved ones that are requiring so much care. And so now I've actually been able to allow myself to go on a few vacations, which I couldn't initially. I canceled 2 of them right before I was to go. I felt too guilty. I can't leave him. I can't leave him. And then I finally realized, yes, I can. They take good care of him. And so taking care of yourself is so important. So, so important. So that's just a little bit of my experience. I hope it's been helpful to you.
Sally and Joan, thank you so much. I'm listening to your stories and all of the comments coming in. You know, one of the most amazing parts of a village is that we are a community. We're a village and we can be a support for one another. So we're hoping that there'll be lots more resource in the future. I want to end by thanking Anne. You're so knowledgeable. And you bring such heart to the work, so we're really appreciative. It's been great to have this huge turnout today. Promise in the next day or two to get, hopefully tomorrow, we'll get the slides out to you. Let's see, where's Cindy's over there in the green. If anybody needs us to mail a copy, let her know, you know, if you don't do email.